today's session, which miraculously is bringing us to a close of what has been an amazing week-long event. And we'd like to use this opportunity to thank you for your attendance and your participation. Please, a round of applause for yourselves. A round of applause for yourselves. Thank you. For those who do not know me, my name is Millicent Joy Umaru, and I am honored to be one of the co-hosts for today's event. Now, I've been asked to find out from you, to get a feel, and you can just, from wherever you are in the hall, just stand up and talk to us briefly. What has been your experience so far of the law conference? What has been your experience so far? Has it been life-changing? Has it been eye-opening? Have you made contacts, networks, and connects? Have you even started getting briefs from all of the connects you've made? All true. Some of the agencies, the regulatory bodies we had in the house yesterday, have started giving feedbacks and testimonies of how challenges have already been sorted. They've already started making impact, and our members are already benefiting from their presence. So my question to you this morning is, how has your experience of the 2025 Law Conference been? Maybe I should point at somebody. Maybe I should point at somebody. You know what, we'll leave that till later. But to kickstart this session, please, ladies and gentlemen, with a clapping ovation, join me to make welcome the #1 man of the MBA Lagos branch. Please join me make welcome Mr. Bisi Makonjola for his opening remarks for today's session.
Good morning, everyone. I did not expect to say anything today. The truth of the matter is that this the in-house group is a group that is very, very, very dear to me. I was just sharing some thoughts with the conference planning chairman about the fact that we lawyers, we seem to have this bad behavior of not respecting ourselves. I don't know why I would advertise an event for 10 a.m. and at 10:20 was struggling to fill in the hall. What I know is that if you were a party we're having this morning at 10 a.m., by 6 a.m. people will be here. And I say that based on facts available to me. We had our AGC party last year. We advertised a particular time and people came 2 hours ahead of that time. But when we have intellectual events like this, we struggle and we just trickle in. And I think it's a bad behavior. And if there's anything I do, in the remaining time I would serve as the chairman of this branch, I'll continue to reiterate this, what I like to call lack of respect by our members. But now, more seriously to today's event, I'm here to network, I'm here to enjoy myself. The conference has been won with a difference. I think that we have left a template for not just the Lagos branch to follow, but for the Nigerian Bar Association at the national level to follow. I'm not saying that because I am the incumbent chair of the branch, but I'm saying that because of the feedback that we've gotten from far and near. When I was running for election about 2 years ago, and I'm happy again that we're ending with a manifesto tonight. I've seen some of the gladiators that we'll be listening to later this afternoon. But when I was running for election, I promised to elevate the standards of practice in Lagos. And I think that in all that we have done in these 2 years, we have elevated standards in everything that we've done. Whether it's in the area of programs such as this, or it's in our welfare initiatives, socials, whatever it is that we sought out to do. And there's no better way than to end big with this event. So I'm looking forward to this event. I'm looking forward to the session by our young lawyers, because I think that these are two demographics that we most often do not invest a lot in. We only remember in-house counsel when we need money. We only remember young lawyers when we are running for election. And I think we need to have a rethink about these kind of things. And so I would like to officially declare this session open. I would invite my brother Tolu Aderemi to also come say a few words, and then we'll listen to Mrs. Olumeyo and our group. They brought us here today, and I'm sure that there's a lot to learn from them. So once again, thank you everyone for coming, and I look forward to an insightful conversation today. Thank you. So Tolu, Minister, I'm sorry, I'm breaking protocol, please. But I would like us to please give this man a resounding round of applause, please. So I don't like to take the credit, but this entire law conference is being planned by Dr. Aderemi. I know that he has his own conference or event that he's planning in about 2-3 weeks' time, but he's poured himself and his committee members. I saw Rita here a while ago. She's jumped to another venue again to do some inspection. I've seen some other committee members here. Dr. Aderemi and his team, another resounding round of applause for them. Please, they put together a fantastic conference. So thank you, Dr. Aderemi. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. Good morning, Life Bencher. I think I saw her somewhere. Good morning, madam. Good morning, distinguished colleagues. There's a saying that you save the best for the last. And that's the reason why these 3 events have been fixed for today. The in-house counsel session, the young lawyers session, and the manifesto arena. The in-house, because this is a demography of people that we are expected to serve. We're expected to complement their services and really not compete with them. It also presents an opportunity for us to get a feedback on the quality of our services as external lawyers. And the feedback is in 2 ways. We also need to give them a feedback on how we perceive the nature of their instructions and how or what kind of feedbacks they give to us when we complete those instructions. I know they have their own challenges, and today we will also spend some time to interrogate those challenges. And so I'm quite delighted that the opening session for the last day of the 2025 conference starts with this very important group. Madam Chair, I was just wondering whether we would also have members of the in-house counsel forum join us in the room. I can see some of our lawyers here, but it would be nice to have members of the in-house counsel, join us in the room. So thank you very much for coming. And please, let's give the panelists a round of applause, and I'll tell you why. I walked into this venue at exactly I think about 9:35, 9:36. And I walked into the hands of 2 of the panelists. Quite unprecedented, I must say. And as we're exchanging pleasantries, another 2 joined us. And then I walked into the hall, I met one already waiting for me in the hall. I thought this is exemplary. Another round of applause for the panelists. The second session, like the chairman had said, is another very important session, which is a session for our young lawyers. When we talk about let's be lawyers again, it's just not looking ahead, we're also looking behind. And so for those our seniors, we want to remind ourselves, so it's a refresher course that we've had in the last few days. But for our young lawyers, we also want to teach ourselves what it really means to be a lawyer. I was sharing with a few colleagues of ours some weeks in the course of planning this conference. And I said, do you know that as a litigator, when you go to the federal high court, and indeed the state high court, you don't dress in your robes from your house. When you get to the court, there's a cloakroom where you go into, you change your suit, and then you are done your lawyer's garments, and then you go into the court. And when you come out from the court, and regardless of whether you are driving your personal car or not, and that's what the judges do themselves. So when you get into a judge's chambers, once the judge rises from the bench, he goes into his chambers, goes straight into the cloakroom before speaking with anybody. That is the bar that we met, and that is the bar that we want to revive. And so for our young lawyers, we're not just going to discuss issues relating to welfare, issues relating, those are very important. But we also want to discuss issues relating to the ethos of our practice, the basis of how we can be attractive to these GCs who are sat here, such that they can employ us or engage us. And finally, the manifesto arena. I want to urge all of us, you know, when we don't get into politics, and when I say get into politics, I don't mean you actively contesting, but you must participate in determining who your leader is. One common joke we like to share all the time is that the chairman who is here and who has done extremely very well, I did not support him when he was contesting the election. Mr. Chairman, am I wrong? But the truth of the matter is that circumstances, political circumstances, did not put us on the same line. But professional, consensual vision brought us together. And the bar supersedes everything else. And so the quality of what BC and his team has done, I'm not sure this bar will recover in a long time. And whoever takes over from Mr. Chairman, and I can see a few of them here, I trust they understand they have big shoes to wear. But I also know that they are competent to wear those shoes. And so this afternoon, we're going to be having that manifesto arena where we will be interrogating those that will be taking over from this excellent administration. Don't leave it to people who have no interest in the bar. Get engaged. Ask them questions. Let them tell you what they will do differently from what BC and his team have done in the last 2 years. That is the only way we can continue to advance the cause of the bar and become lawyers again. Your Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, I welcome you to the first session. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Aderemi. So a lot has been said about this next highly anticipated forum. So without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, we are going straight into the in-house and government council forum. And please join me make welcome the section coordinator, Ms. Oluwanishola Adeniro. A round of applause for her. Thank you.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, sir, Chairman of the NBA Lagos branch. Good morning to our Chairman, NBA Lagos Branch 2025 Law Conference Planning Committee, Dr. Oluremi. Our life bencher, Leonard Silks. Our seniors at the bar, my colleagues at the bar, distinguished guests and conferees. I am Olushola Adeniro, and I am the coordinator of this session. I have a fellow coordinator, that's in the person of Mr. Clemens Eki, but he is unavoidably absent today, as he is in the US. You're welcome to the session championed by the NBA Lagos In-House and Government Council Forum, themed, Reshaping the Future of In-House Legal Practice, Navigating Ethical Standards, and Evolving Technological Solutions, Innovations. This theme choice represents a broader call to all in-house and government councils in the country to reimagine, fine-tune, advance, and upscale their practice of the law within their various organizations. Our discussants intend to explore how in-house and government councils must balance their fundamental ethical obligation with the rapid advancement in technology to effectively contribute to, navigate the future landscape of legal services within their organization. We have selected a theme of erudite and sought-after in-house and government councils to do justice to this topic. Without further ado, I'd like to invite my panelists. First on my list is our panel chair, who is also doubling as our moderator, in the person of Mrs. Adeola Olumeyo. Mrs. Adeola Olumeyo is the Regional General Counsel, Head Risk and Compliance at JA Africa. She currently serves as the Vice Chair of our NBA Lagos In-House and Government Council Forum. You're welcome, ma'am. Next on my list is a standout legal leader in one of the fast-growing sectors in Nigeria today. He operates where deals move faster than the law and innovation constantly tests the limit of regulations. Yet, he ensures that compliance never lags. As General Counsel of Unified Payments, he is widely respected for his strategic clarity, legal precision, and for being at the very frontier of tech-driven compliance in the fintech space. Please join me in welcoming Mr. Sylvester Adahada. You're welcome, sir. Our next panelist is a strategic legal thinker whose work sits at the intersection of ethics, law, and leadership in one of the big four multinational advisory powerhouses. She sees into the ethical blind spot of clients across sectors and provides advice to some of the continent's largest organizations, uncovering risk before they erupt, and guiding boards and executives with clarity and courage. She is not just respected, she is trusted. Please welcome Mrs. Ugochi Ndebio. Please forgive my pronunciation. Our next panelists. You're welcome. Our next panelist is one of the few legal minds trusted to interpret and reshape our laws. Working within one of Africa's most dynamic state governments, he translates policy into action, navigating the complexity of public law, politics, and digital innovation. His work is at the heart of Lagos Smart Governance agenda. Please welcome Mr. Olamide Ibrahim. You're welcome, sir. And our final panelist is a commanding force in one of Nigeria's most tightly regulated industry. She is known for holding the line where bold ambition meets regulatory scrutiny, ensuring that growth is not just strategic, but responsible. Our group company secretary and legal head of Ronchis Global, she steers high-stake legal decision with strength and grace. Please welcome Mrs. Nwabwaku Ebeleju. You're welcome. Without further ado, I'd like to hand over the mic to our panel chair, who is also the moderator for this session, to enlighten and enrich us with what they have planned for today. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Shola. That was a very heartwarming welcome. And I'd like to just quickly say that you don't find this type of busy people out attending conferences all of the time. And so I'd like you to please, another round of applause for my panelists. So someone had asked me, had said to me, waiting lawyers, they do safe. And that person said, and specifically, lawyers that work in companies, well, what exactly do you do? Because we're okay, we're good. So we don't know why we need you, especially because if a matter goes to court, you don't go. We don't see you in court. We don't see you anywhere. So waiting lawyers, they do safe. Some of the things and the thoughts that you'll hear today will tell you, waiting in-house and government lawyers, they do safe. That's one. Secondly, when you're looking into policy, it is the in-house and government lawyers that you find driving that. We're the ones who push for regulations, who push for policies. We're the ones who know where the shoe pinches the entrepreneur. We're the ones who help them and guide them when they go outside to have those deals signed and brought back. That's the role that we play. So our role is also in risk. Our role is in compliance. And I thought to just mention that to start with, because after today, one of the questions that I will ask you, our audience, is waiting in-house lawyers, they do safe. And you have to answer. So without further ado, I will just mention some of the things that you should expect to get. And let me start also with a quote from Chinua Achebe on our theme, because today we're going to focus on how we contribute to ethics and also innovation as in-house lawyers. So Chinua Achebe said once that one of the truest tests of integrity is its blunt refusal to be compromised. And we stand at that vanguard as in-house lawyers. We would explore today during our conference what integrity is and how it's tested. You would hear about politics. You would hear what we do when speed, silence, and systems that are complex are way too complex for the laws that we have. We have to manage the laws and manage ambiguity every day. As in-house and government legal professionals, we sit at the engine room where risk regulation and reputation collides. We're asked to sign agreements, sometimes that even the board does not fully understand. We have to close deals faster than regulations can blink, because whether or not there's a law for fintech, we still do our work. So a lot of times we are forced to be ahead even of regulators. We have to provide that guidance. So our panel will discuss not just politics or innovation, but we'll talk about the legal professional's survival instincts. We will ask today, is silence now the real ethical crisis in our industries? You would hear today on the question, is unregulated tech a bigger threat than old school corruption? Are we still equipping the legal teams with analog tools to fight digital challenges? In this session, assumptions will be challenged, real-life dilemmas will be spotlighted, insights, sharp insights from some of Nigeria's most trusted legal minds across corporate and government space are some of the things that you'll hear. We will also have a debate on whether the real threat is on the rule of law, or is it in quiet submission or the quiet intrusion of tech. We will leave you sharper than you came. We will move fast. We will go deep. And we will definitely get real. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. Let's begin. So there's this bold idea that in Nigeria today that is actually silence, the choice to be quiet, the choice not to challenge unethical behavior. That's the greater crisis in Nigeria. and not outright corruption, because at least we know about corruption. I'd like each of you in a few minutes, 3 minutes, to share your thoughts on this. Would you say that silence, the choice to be quiet, is a greater crisis, or would you say that it is outright corruption? Sylvester, your thoughts.
Thank you for that very important question. Before I begin, I would just like to take a moment or two to commend the leadership of the branch for putting this together, and my very good friend, Mr. B.C. Makanjuola, a very good barman. Also commend the chair of the conference, Dr. Olu, and then all the teams who have put this together. And also to note that I'm very pleased to be here. To the question, we are discussing ethics and innovation. And then particularly today, we are zeroing in on the culture of silence and how does it impact ethics in our space. I have some thoughts, and I'd like to share them. The very first one is that in most cases, you find that those who are bent on doing the wrong things would be in the minority, a very tiny minority. The majority would like to have things done well. But if there's a culture of silence, you see that majority not doing anything. They just stand and watch by or look the other way, and then evil thrives. So in essence, it does appear that the majority, the silent majority, tend to enable the tiny minority. And in that space, corruption can thrive. So I would say yes, silence is a problem, a very major one. Not just today, but I think given the power dynamics in our space, it's even a greater problem today. Also, you find out that silence is difficult to track. It is passive. You just do nothing. Those who are doing the wrong things, they would have done a few things, maybe meet some people, sign a few papers and all that. But silence is just passive. You really can't hold somebody to silence because the person did not do anything. So it makes it very difficult. And for me, the very devastating aspect of it is that it hampers self-regulation. I'll explain. For any society to move on and to work well, it has to self-regulate. And we could see this in a society where people are willing to speak up for anything they perceive to be wrong. You know, you tend to listen more to people who are close to you. They are going the wrong way than those who are distant. But if those who are close to you have that culture of silence, even in the face of evil, then you see that it's a very big problem. Bring it to our profession and the entire community. So if the culture of silence is what we have, we find that it's very difficult for us to regulate our society. So I'd like to note that if we see corruption as a major illness, the culture of silence is actually what makes it spread unchecked. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I like that you said that silence is difficult to actually catch. You can't hold somebody who's been silent. Ugochi, what do you think?
Thank you very much. And thank you again for being here. I have a couple of thoughts as well regarding this, and I think it's a really big issue, particularly looking at the fact that, looking at our environment, the fact that we're Nigerians, our culture, we are very, when it comes, I'm looking at it from the terms of people who are older. Where you have people who are older, you tend not to criticize what they do. And also looking at our profession. Our profession also recognizes hierarchy a lot. So the thing is that what you will find is that the culture of silence is a can be a bit more pervasive in our own profession, because when the younger ones, the older people who are doing things and they are not in a position to talk about it, because even the older people who can talk about it are turning a blind eye, it then makes that kind of attitude or that kind of, attitude, wrongdoing, it makes it pervasive. So it's subtle, and people can cloak it in professionalism to say, I'm not supposed to be too aggressive, I'm minding my business. But when we then do that, what you find is that we are ruining the integrity of the profession. And sometimes we look at it as if, oh, it's just within us, but sometimes it's beyond us. What we find is that it can also erode public trust. So we do that, take it to the courtrooms, people are seeing, judgments that have been issued, and people are like, how is this happening? And the question is, because there's a culture of silence, nobody's going to talk about it, nobody's going to challenge it. So sometimes what we find is that within our profession, culture of silence can actually be more harmful. Corruption, we know, corruption you can trace. If anybody wants to prosecute corruption today, you know what to do. When it comes to silence, like Sylvester has said, are you going to say, you must say something? So it's something that we have to keep mentoring the young ones, not to be afraid to speak. And also, another thing I find that's not very pervasive in the legal profession is whistleblowing. We don't do it. I've never heard of it in the legal profession. But it's something we need to think about putting in place. I've worked across different industries, crime facing and also an in-house counsel. And what you find is that in places where whistleblowing, it's encouraged, you find that the culture of silence does not erode the system. So it's something that I think the legal profession think about a bit more, make sure that we don't lose the integrity of this. Thank you.
Fantastic. I actually agree. And I like that you said that, because one of the guardrails to definitely put in place will be whistleblowing. If people are encouraged to speak privately to someone without any form of retribution, of course, they might be encouraged to speak out a little more. So thank you very much. So Olamide, we've heard from Sylvester. Sylvester's thoughts are that it's difficult to catch corruption. It's difficult to catch silence, not corruption. Corruption you might be able to catch. And Gochi said absolutely agreed with him and went further to say, you know what? If you put the guardrails of whistleblowing in place, we definitely would have more people able to speak up. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, thank you very much. I would like to start by adopting the recommendations given earlier by Sylvester to the organizers for putting this amazing conference together. And I'm indeed also very glad to be here today. Now, I would like to, in answering that question, which I'm going to come to later, start by saying that I am coming here from a totally different perspective. That's coming from the perspective of a government lawyer. So when we talk about a government lawyer, I know that when lawyers graduate from the law school, they are all adjudged as being fit and proper. And that is the yardstick for releasing them into the society to go trade their trade as lawyers. So these lawyers soon get separated into different sectors. So those who choose to be government lawyers have a higher level, or let me say a higher threshold of ethical standards expected of them. Because in addition to the rules of professional conduct that guides the activities of all lawyers, you find that those who have chosen to be government lawyers have some other things that guide them apart from that. You talk about the public service rules, you talk about the 5th schedule to the Constitution that talks about the code of conduct for public officers. There is also the Official Secret Act. You have time and time again, the Office of the Head of Service releases circulars, telling public officers what they can say and what they cannot say. So you find that public officers, that is government lawyers, have, in addition to the expectations expected of lawyers in general. They have a different threshold. And this places a huge responsibility on them. Now, coming back to your question, which is about the culture of silence, because that's what I could pick from what Sylvester said, which was also agreed to, by the next speaker. So where I work, I see that playing out every day. So the civil service is more like the practice of old permeates in the civil service. Meaning that, if we still have issues like, oh, you entered the elevator, you did not greet me. That's a senior talking to a junior. Then you know that we really do have a long way to go. And that's exactly what we're talking about. So a junior who enters the elevator and is bullied for not greeting, permit me for using the word bully, because it's actually not right for you not to greet your seniors. Mm-hmm. But the point I'm trying to make is that how then do you expect such a person to speak out, right, when the person sees the evil in society or the evil in the system? So the culture is actually a very big elephant in the room, which we have to deal with. But beyond that, I also think that for those who want to speak out, then you better then begin to think of, I think speaking out is not really what I would advocate for, right? Speak wisdom. And what that means is that you look at the environment where you operate and check whether what you're about to say is going to keep you, because you have chosen to be part of that environment. Now, there are I've talked about different rules and regulations that relate to different environments. So those who have chosen to be government workers, let's also not forget that the activities of government workers are function-based. So you have those who are prosecutors, for example. So if you are a prosecutor and you have been given, and you don't particularly agree that a case has to be prosecuted, and you have been given the case to prosecute, how do you speak out against such? Right? Because the rule of the organization mandates you to do what you are doing. And so, I'm not in any way suggesting that corruption should be aided in any way. But I think that silence, in actual fact, is a big threat and a big rot to rather bigger than corruption, and it should be nipped in the bud. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. I liked what you said when you, please clap. Yes, thank you. I really liked what you said, you and Ugochi, saying that, you know what, sometimes even our own culture as Nigerians, without knowing it, can be an enabler. And if we do want people to speak up, we have to have different things that we're doing. Ugochi's mentioned, have the guardrails of having policies in place. And you are saying also, even sometimes having those laws in place that guide how an organization enables people to speak up, could be very useful. I really liked that. And one of the things I'll definitely take away is speak with wisdom. Don't just open up your mouth. Thank you. That was very useful. Please, Mwabako.
There is always a problem being the last speaker. When you have very erudite scholars that have already spoken on it. But I'll just chip in something. So when we are talking about silence, right? Silence, like you said, is a choice. You know that something is wrong. You know something is unethical. You know that something is not meant to be so. And you are aware of it, but you choose to turn the other way, right? So that is on one hand. When we're talking about silence, silence is, we've already spoken it, is an enabler of wrongdoings. So I'll speak as an in-house counsel, right? Our roles have compliance embedded. As an in-house counsel, you either have compliance, as a cross-function, or as a core function. But whatever it is, you're going to be making returns, you're going to be making reports, and these returns, for example, when we talk about maybe the IFRS 1, IFRS 2 sustainability reporting, the intention of that report is to elaborate is transparency, openness. But some of our managements are not actually comfortable, divulging. We can't divulge everything. Please, do it this way. And then they begin to suggest window dressing. You want to window dress your reports, you want to window dress your returns because you want it to look in a particular way to the users, And when it comes to your table, or that there is an intention to do this, but you don't do anything, that is silence. And when you are doing this as an in-house counsel, what you are just doing is sowing a seed. You are sowing a seed of corruption. So we are talking about silence being greater than corruption. It is. Before corruption springs up, there is a seed of silence that has been planted. So when we are talking about silence, when as in-house counsels, you see this thing run through your table, you have the opportunity, to advise, but you choose not to advise because you are scared of maybe falling out of favor with your employer or with your chairman or with management. And then you choose to look away. What you have done is just, you have planted that seed. And what we see around corruption is just the trees that have germinated from this seed of silence that we have planted. So without this seed planted, you cannot see the trees of corruption. It starts from silence. By the time you have spoken out, you advise, you say, no, this is not meant to be like this. It should be like this. You make it known. Even if everything is not going to be taken, some will be taken. That way you have curbed corruption. So if you keep keeping quiet, just as in-house counsel, know that you are planting the seed of corruption, actually. So basically, I'll say, lastly on this point, that as in-house counsel, we are going to be doing not just ourselves, but our companies the greatest disservice, by staying silent when you should speak up, because you are actually planting the seed of corruption. So in my opinion, yes, silence is actually greater than corruption. Thank you.
Wow. I like the way you're all shaking the table. Because you are right. It does happen when your board tells you, why would you tell everybody what is in the management report? Why would the management report be the same thing as the audited report? And a lot of times we do forget that it's our names that are behind it. And we are the ones who can get our licenses revoked. You don't necessarily need a license to be a director, but you do need a license to practice as a lawyer and to work in-house. But everything that you've all said has now raised a lot of questions in my mind, more than our 29 minutes remaining can take. Our timekeeper, I don't believe we've spent 1 hour, so this 29 minutes, I'm sure it will be we're not silent on that. You are shortchanging my panelists. So let's have a quick fire round. I wish we had all this nice ding-dong. We're going into game session now. We're going to ask quick fire questions because I don't have enough time to ask you all the things on my mind. So we're going into game session. You've watched The Chaser, have you? You've watched The Chaser, great. So I'm going to ask you a question. It's going to be fast. And your answer has to be in 3 words or less. Are we ready? Drink water, drink water. You can do it. I believe in you.
We will try, but the lawyers like to talk a lot, right?
You will get a chance to say more, but otherwise we can't answer all the questions. So I'm going to go in this order. Sylvester, Ugochi, Olamide, and Nwabwaku. That's the order. So when I ask the question, you know it's for you. Once the person sitting before you has had a turn to say something.
We're ready.
Good. Let's go. Sylvester, what's one issue keeping in-house teams up at night today that wasn't even in the radar 5 years ago?
Managing virtual teams.
Which contract clause is most often ignored but dangerous?
Limitation of liability.
What puts in-house counsel at greater risk? Pressure to stay or government lawyers? Pressure to stay silent or pressure to move fast?
Pressure to stay silent.
What's harder to fight inside a company, therefore more dangerous? Fraud or silence?
Silence.
What's one thing lawyers tolerate but shouldn't?
Being brought in too late.
Is Nigeria's data law, the NDPR, stronger than AI?
Not at
Or
all.
strong enough for AI?
Not at all.
What creates more complex legal headaches today? Data breaches or financial reporting?
Data breaches.
Finish this sentence. Just because something is legal,
Doesn't make it right.
round 2. What's one clause in most contracts that almost nobody enforces?
Confidentiality clause.
What's one term Nigerian directors pretend to understand but really don't?
Fiduciary duty.
What's the most misunderstood role of government counsel?
Business enablers.
What's one reason boardrooms ignore legal advice from in-house counsel?
Perceived conflicts between legal interests and business interests.
Should we give her 3 words or less? Should we give her?
Perceived conflicts.
Okay, Sylvester, what's more dangerous to a legal career, being the blocker or being the yes man?
Being the yes man.
Finish this sentence. I have once been told in-house lawyers are...
Difficult.
Finish this sentence. I've once been told government lawyers are...
Smart.
Finish this sentence. When the deal is too good.
Exercise extreme caution.
Spoken as fantastic. Thank you, thank you. We're going to dive deeper into some of these issues. So, but now I'd like to target it a little bit towards your industry. So I'll start again with you, Sylvester. What would you say in your industry in-house lawyers are doing, or maybe even failing to do, to understand the risk of generative AI? And I know that in your industry, in the financial sector, you can't avoid it, whether it is in asking AI chatbots to respond to people and all that. What would you say in-house lawyers are doing or are not doing to understand the ethical and legal risk of generative AI?
Okay, so I said this touches on the second leg of our discussion today, that is innovation. And the question is, what do I think that in-house lawyers are doing well, and what perhaps I think whether I think they should do better regarding generative AI. Okay, these are my thoughts. Again, this is a very topical topic given where we are today. And as lawyers, we also need to be very abreast with what is happening. So what I think that lawyers, including in-house lawyers, are doing currently well, I would say is keeping pace with the various regulations. Of course, this is what lawyers do, so this should not be difficult. So you check all the available laws and see what they say, and then also try as much as possible to keep track of what the laws require. The next thing is, what do you put in place to ensure that as an entity, you are not left behind? What I think in-house lawyers should do, and a lot of them I dare say have already commenced, is try as much as possible to put a policy in place. Just as you would have policies regarding HR, policies regarding risk, and various others. There is also the need today to have policies regarding the use of technology, including AI. Because that way you would be in a place to say what is allowed and what isn't allowed. You'll be able to say what is risky and what is safe to do regarding AI. The other point I'd like to mention, which is like an admonition, is that as much as possible, lawyers working in-house must be very close to the tech guys. If you happen to be in a space like mine that is highly tech, because they are likely to be in a better position to understand these things better. So there has to be cross-functional collaboration. So you work with the tech team, the compliance team, and the risk team to ensure that whatever is happening within the space, there's a kind of synergy between what all the teams are doing. And then, very important, this I think would be like recommendation, training is very important. Training is very important, not just for lawyers, even for the tech people, but for lawyers in-house. Please, as much as possible, you need to encourage the culture of continuous learning. We had a session recently where a tech guru led us on what AI is doing today, and what we took away from that session was the need to ensure that there's a policy in place and that policy has to be made available to every single person within the organization. That way, they're able to learn and understand what is safe and what is not safe in the tech space. So that's what I think, what's currently in-house lawyers are doing well, and an area that I think they need to improve upon. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. So, Uguchi, when I think about the challenges that we face generally today, I remember speaking during a training with a marketing team of an organization and that I represented. And I was telling them that you can't use AI to generate your image and claim the copyright for it. And I could tell that if not because the CEO was in the room, they would have fed me with Valium in the water because they're thinking, what do you mean? It's just so much easier to just have AI generate those fantastic images. What took them forever, took them 48 hours, could now take 4 hours. And now you're saying, oh, well, by the way, when you do that, then you lose all your IP image, you lose the rights of the company. So that has changed a lot of things within organizations. So what would you say, in your opinion, has changed when it comes to contract review, policy development, board management, and even risk?
Thanks a lot for that question, Madam Chair. It's interesting because there's a lot of evolution that's going on in that space. What we find in contract reviews, well, again, with Nigeria, it's paced in different ways for different industries. So you find that in industries like financial services, telecoms, they're a bit more ahead, even fintech, they're a bit more ahead when it comes to technology. So what you find is that some have moved on to using AI to review contracts and is doing initial review. Now, when it comes to Nigeria, we still have some local nuances that you can't take away the human element. Just use that, you're going to set yourself up. But initial level reviews, we find now that initial level reviews can be done with AI. You also find that a couple of in-house counsels and in-house legal departments are also now utilizing the contract lifecycle management softwares to maintain their contracts. So a lot of them have transited to that, likes of DocuSign, Contract Pod AI. You see a lot of that in the bigger organizations. So it helps, it really helps in terms of efficiency and turnaround time. But again, because Nigeria is we're still an emerging market when it comes to technology. You can't take away the human element to it. But we're finding that, there is that leverage on technology to even draft contracts. So you usually find first drafts really generated by AI, and then you manage it and then customize it to fit local nuances. So that's what we find happening in the contract space, and I think it's a really good development. For policy developments, just like Sylvester has said, when it comes to certain industries, before what you used to have is top-down. You have those policies that have been developed, and then it's maybe in PDF, and everybody is cascaded down. If you work like that, you're going to set yourself up when it comes to policies. So what you find is that because of the changing, particularly again, because of technology, you need to work hand in hand and co-create policies with different departments. Like you said, with tech particularly, when it comes to things like data privacy, when it comes to things like, some other tech-related things. We as lawyers, we're not the best repository of knowledge when it comes to that. So you must work hand in hand to be able to understand it, to be able to then develop a policy that's able to mitigate some of the risks.
So in other words, you're
So
also
you must-
a techie,
you
a
have
tech
to,
lawyer.
we can't take away the fact that we must get to that point where we are technology literate. So it's really important that we move with the times. Otherwise, we cannot regulate, we cannot set policies that will proactively take away issues where there are things that we don't even understand. So again, we see that trend towards co-creation and collaboration to form policies. For board management, what we also find now is, again, the bigger entities tend to leverage technology, digital tools to have their dashboard. So they're able to share documents through the dashboard. They're able to even sometimes vote through the dashboard. It's easier because that way directors don't need to start calling the company secretary or the legal counsel and say, where is this document? Where is that document? It's easy. They're able, and some of those platforms are usually very user-friendly. They can go into it and get any document that they want. We're seeing that happen for the big organizations like listed entities and DFIs as well. Again, we're also seeing Nigeria is also becoming a bit more aware of ESG and corporate governance. So there's a bit more attention placed to corporate governance. So find things like transparency, diversity in terms of skills, expertise, even in terms of gender as well, coming into play when you appoint board members. So that is also coming into play, and there's a bit more sensitivity around it. And also trainings for boards, particularly in things like cyber risk. We talk about cyber risk. Some people don't understand the enormity of cyber risks.
Absolutely.
So there's a lot of training as well that is also happening at the board levels to make sure that they are abreast of what's going on professionally. And then lastly will be in terms of sorry, let me just put my thoughts together. Okay, I think I'll just end it there. But yeah, let me just end it there so I don't take too much time. But those are a couple of the things that we see for board management. Okay, I think the last one is on risk management. Apologies. Yes. So for risk management, what we see is that we're moving away from, for most people, risk management happens annually, where you have your internal audits.
Yes.
Or you have, the risk registers, and then everybody else goes to go and tick off the box. So from time immemorial, risk has been a case of, I'm ticking the box.
Can you lean in?
Oh, okay, sorry. So risk management is more of, I'm ticking the box. But now it's moving, again, because of technology, you need to do some online, real-time monitoring. So some companies are putting into place elements to make sure that you can monitor some of these risks real-time. And also what you also find is, again, for ESG as well, I will give a practical example. People don't realize the importance of ESG because sometimes when you say ESG, you're like, oh, please, it hasn't come to Nigeria.
Especially with Trump saying we don't need it.
But you find, so there was a company in recent times that a global company wanted to acquire, but part of the requirements was that they need to be sure where their supply chain is coming from. And the supply chain was in Nigeria. It's actually agricultural, so they supply their raw materials from Nigeria. And what was important from an EUDR, the European Union, their regulations, is that things like deforestation, child labor, doesn't pay. You have to make sure that you're actively monitoring to make sure that doesn't take place in your supply chain. And so by the time we do the due diligence along the lines, you then find that those issues are not, everyone's like child labor, who cares? They take their children to the farm and nobody cares about those things. But you don't realize that those things can actually harm you because yes, we're not monitoring that closely down here, but sometimes it impacted that particular transaction couldn't go through because by the time they saw the supply chain of the entity that they were looking to acquire, they were not paying attention to little things like, how their raw material is being sourced. They said they couldn't buy into that entity. So that entity then had to take a reactive step to then try to start putting steps to make sure that, that they make sure that their supply chains understand that some of the things you do that may not be monitored here are actually can have a repercussion to, for everybody.
Absolutely.
So that company currently is not able to thrive, and that's the reason why they were looking to get an investor. But they couldn't get the funds they were looking for because the supply chains in Africa, in Nigeria, in Ghana, were not paying attention to the little ESG things. So again, that's part of why sometimes we may not have very strong ESG. I mean, it's flowing down. For listed companies, you have the sustainability disclosure guidelines and all of that, and all the corporate governance regulations as well. But sometimes a little more of these things get cascaded down because it's a global village. Nigeria, the world is a global village, and sometimes they get cascaded down. So we also see that also play, come to play when it comes to risk assessments. Thank you very much.
Wow. Thank you. So I'm hearing that macro and micro politics are definitely important when you are looking at your organization. So by micro, we mean your stakeholder management within the organization. Sylvester's mentioned that. You've also mentioned that you can't manage things on your own anymore. You now have to be a tech lawyer, a risk lawyer, an ESG lawyer. You have to be all of those things. But I know, Olamide, for you, for example, your stakeholders are more than just micro and macro. Some of them are bosses that are not your boss directly. So when politics and law collide for you, how do you decide, for example, when to speak, what to say? I know you mentioned one of the things, speak wisely. And what are the things that you now have to think about as a government lawyer when that happens?
All right. Thank you very much, Madam Moderator. Now, I am not going to answer that question in a generic manner. And that's because the deciding when to speak and how to speak would depend on the kind of engagement that you have with the state. So it will depend on whether your employment enjoys statutory flavor or you are a political appointee. And I can say this because I happen to currently hold those two positions. So I am an assistant director in the ministry, and I also work as SSA to Attorney General. So as SSA to Attorney General, I'm more like a political appointee. And so, talking about deciding when to speak, of course, you don't attend high-level meetings and come out doing your mouth like something is wrong with you. So, because you find that a lot is being entrusted into your hands, and there is a huge responsibility imposed on you to ensure that you balance the political climate that evolves in the state with the implementation of policies, because there is usually a tension, to be honest, between politics and the law. So the whole aim of government is to ensure that life is made better for the people. And when those in political office want to achieve this, they usually would not be happy if you start throwing laws at them. I mean, I want to build a road. I want to build a road at that particular location. And you're saying, come on, before you do that, you have to go through so and so step. Fine. We are fortunate in Lagos to have a government that is always responsive whenever we issue out advice, in terms of following regulations and obeying laws. But what I would do when I find myself in that situation, first and foremost, is to check whether the situation, is it a situation of pure illegality? So the situation that has been thrown at me that I'm addressing, is this purely illegal? Now, if it is illegal, of course, I would advise against it. Tell them, come on, we can't do this, because if we do this, the citizens are going to take the government to court, and that comes back to us at the Ministry of Justice. So, I mean, you can't keep making lives difficult for us. So, Well, litigation isn't making life difficult for lawyers. I mean, that we thrive.
Be careful. Be careful looking around the room.
We thrive, right? We thrive on litigations. But then you want to just put them on the right path by saying, okay, so is this purely illegal? Now, if it is not purely illegal, then you begin to look out for institutional interest. Okay, so fine. We want to do this. Yes, we all agree we want to do this. We all know that to every general rule in law, there are exceptions. So can this be accommodated under one of the exceptions? If it can be accommodated under one of the exceptions, then it means it will not be termed as being clearly illegal. And then I can advise based on that. And then the last thing that I will consider is the timing. Right? So if I want to speak, I would consider the appropriate time to speak. Now, it all depends on whether. Now, don't forget that for counsel in the Ministry of Justice, everyone acts on behalf of the Attorney General. Whether I act in my political office or as a state counsel, I act on behalf of the Attorney General. And that's why you often see communications coming from government saying, I am directed to. So if it becomes one that I strongly have to advise against, rather than speaking out, and that's what I talked about, speaking wisely earlier on. So rather than speaking out, audibly, I will do a memo. And in my memo, I will detail what I think should be done. Record speaks for itself. Record never gets eroded. So I would have cleared my conscience by ensuring that I detail what I consider appropriate for that particular statement of affairs. That state of affairs. I would have detailed it in black and white, such that if an issue erupts later, then it should be clear that government was well and properly guided. But then, if I have to speak, audibly, then I will mind my tone. Thank you.
Fantastic. Yes, please. So our role is not just to advise, but to actually think about how and when to advise. I'm hearing all of you say things like, think before you speak. I'm hearing things like, collaborate, manage your stakeholders properly and all. I'm also hearing you say you have to be innovative, think outside of the box, use what you have. From some of the things Ugochi's listed, things that we could do, and all. So it comes all back, ties back down to be creative in how you're managing your teams and how you're managing things. Also, again, comes to innovation. Lawyers are not known to be innovative. We are known to be very conservative. We're the ones who, I know Sylvester said innovation when I was asking him speed or innovation, be a blocker or a yes man. He said no, it's worse to be a yes man. But we're not known for innovation as a profession. We're slow. I don't want to shake a table, but I know that even dress code, we're not innovative. So, Wabaku, how do you innovate as a lawyer? Especially because, the pressure of boardrooms. Olamide's mentioned the pressure of government wants to build a road, and then you are saying, wait, first, you have to check this. It happens in-house as well. So when your board wants speed, not scrutiny, how do you innovate, and especially ethically?
Thank you very much. Ugochi has mentioned something about corporate governance. Now, when we talk about, let's put it this way. On one hand, we have speed. On one hand, we have scrutiny. In the middle, we have the ethics. Right. So, when we're talking about speed, speed is good in business. Speed is essential in business.
Critical.
Especially when you want to stay competitive. Speed is very necessary. Yesterday, we were talking about turnaround time, which lawyer will you go for, the person who keeps in touch with you and all of that. Speed is an ingredient to closing transactions. And that is what directors, management actually focus on. They are business-oriented. They want to close the transactions. They want to onboard the clients. That is their own business goal. That is their business priority. But as an in-house counsel, one of my priorities is the legal priorities, working within the ambit of the law. So whilst you are saying, yes, speed is good, but the truth about it is, that's where corporate governance comes in. All these procedures, all these actions are to be scrutinized. If they are not scrutinized, at the end of the day, you will see that there's going to be issue of transparency, issue of accountability. That's what you find, right? So on one, we have it to balance as an in-house counsel, legal priorities versus business goals, versus business priorities. Directors, they are out to, maximize profit, basically. So as an in-house counsel, how do you manage the two, ensuring that you're maintaining the ethical standards? I'll give some points. The first one I want to talk about is being able to stand up and give the hard talk. The hard talk is when you see that management, you see the superiors, you see your board members, they are erring because they are so fixated on, we need to close out this transaction. And they are not paying attention to legal implications of some things they may be doing, or they may be acting ultra-vires. So we're looking at some highly regulated industries like the fintech. If you have a license, you cannot, there are activities they call non-permissible activities. So if you are going to be indulging in that, an in-house counsel should halt it immediately. But sometimes, the board management always see it as a clog in the wheel of progress. So how do we now navigate? The first one, that hard talk, you have to make it known. Management, this is it. Like what my fellow panelist, Olamide, mentioned. Number one, you have to make it known. Make the position known. And not orally. You have to document it. No matter if it's in the simplest form, you must document it. That way you're going to safeguard your ethical environment. Because 2 years to come, 1 year to come, 1 month to come, nobody may remember what you said. But what you have written down, what the email you have sent, the memo you have shared, will help you protect your reputation. When you are communicating, make sure it is clear. Don't say, I think, don't try to be political about it. I think you should be able, because you are trying to party, I'm trying to be careful. No, make sure it is clear. State it clearly. Make sure your communication, you are doing it timely. Give that advice timely. That's one. Secondly, you should agree on a visible turnaround time. So you have agreements to close in the transaction. Probably you put it in milestones, and then a particular part, the milestone is closing out on agreements, right? When you do that, put turnaround times that are realistic. So for this transaction, we are going to be using 14 days to close this out. When you are doing that, the legal department is saying that, look, we have to work within this time, and then you have to plan resources accordingly, right? And many companies do it in different ways. They may choose to put it in policies, they may choose to put it in agreements, SLAs, You may also put it in KPIs, If you are reviewing this agreement of this number of pages, you do it in 2 days. If it's higher, you do it in 4 days, and then they batch it that way. So that way, you know that everybody is on the same page when it comes to delivering. So nobody is hassling. We are saying, okay, we are still within time frame. And also be careful to add exceptions. Because there are times that that business exigencies arise, and then we may have to break out of the normal. So put all these exceptions of things like have some level of management staff sign off on a deal, after a first level review has been done. So whatever works for your industry, considering business objectives, ensure you embed exceptions. The third one I will talk about, there's something we call embedded legal. So for embedded legal, it is about attaching an associate to every business team in a company, right? And what this does is it ensures that legal is carried along from the get-go. So most times what we see is that a transaction has started and they have finished everything and they say, okay, let's do an agreement. Let's meet our lawyer. Come and please, we need this thing fast. No.
And you don't know what
meanwhile, you don't know.
About.
So by the time you now want to draft the agreement, you now start asking questions. And by the time they have gotten to 10 over 10. No, 9 over 10. The signing is the 10 over 10. But by the time you're now asking questions, you see that, hey, at 3 over 10, you cannot pass this. You cannot pass this because the law does not permit you to do this. And at the end of the day, you have to pull them back. And that's what business does not like. So what companies have done is to do embedded legal to ensure that lawyers, associates are attached to business teams. So from the get-go, they are already involved in the process. So if you are releasing a product, and it is not meant to, you cannot be found, it is not within your permissible activity. You have to, the lawyer will just flag it immediately. You don't have to travel all the way, before you now start flagging it. Fantastic. Then also, I want to talk about capacity. Now you're talking about, you want your management staff, you want board members to listen to you, right? You want to tell them, this thing you're doing, you should do it in this way. From experience, one thing board members or management will really listen to you for is when they see that you are speaking their language. What is their language? Business. So it's not just about the law says, no. But the law says, are you considering business objective? Now,
change your language.
Not just change your language. So I'll take myself as an instance, an example. Now, when I knew I went in-house, I know I'm going to be handling different business environments. What I did was to step out of the box. You're talking about thinking out of the box. I did some certifications in about 5 international standards, and I am a certified business analyst. So when I'm talking to my board members, I'm not just talking as a lawyer. I'm going to tell you, I'm talking as someone who is business savvy. I'm commercially aware. So this is a language that directors and management want to hear, right? And when you are doing all of this, you have to be careful. Olamide talked about emotional intelligence. You must know when to speak, how to speak. You must know when to pause. You must know when to say it. You don't say because I know it, and then you just want to barge in. No, you'll be shut out. So whatever you're doing, you must ensure that you deploy good emotional intelligence. And make your points very succinct. Make it be clear. Be clear. Stand on the position and tell them respectfully, this is the position.
Fantastic.
Thank you.
Amazing. I like embed legal in everything that you do as an organization. I guess that also is how we get to be a stronger voice within the organization. And I also like that you're saying, I know that just before we came up stage, we were talking about external counsel and in-house counsel. And external counsel have to advise a lot of clients. And so they have a lot of expertise in different areas. But from what you are saying, all 4 of you have said it in different ways. We also have a lot of expertise in a lot of different areas as well. You are a business analyst, and ours might be focused on business, some on risk. I have a risk certification as well, some on IP. So in essence, the competitive lawyer of today, whether you're in-house or whether you're an external counsel, just has to wear many hats and not just a legal hat. I like that, and that's how we will continue to drive innovation. We're going to move faster. We're going to keep our answers shorter. We're really running out of time, but I wanted to ask, I wouldn't go round. I wanted to ask you a couple of other questions, but looking at our time, there is this big elephant in the room that we cannot leave this place without addressing it. And I just want to, anyone who feels comfortable with it, answer. What do you look out for when you are picking your external counsel? I can hear a pin drop in the room. And maybe even people are going to record now. I want you to be candid.
Madam, can I go ahead?
As long as you're moving your microphone closer to you.
I think it's very close to my mouth. I'm going to check what the issue is really. Are we fine? Yes, okay. Thank you. This is very interesting.
Short answer?
But I really doubt if you can make this really short.
Try.
Honestly. Well, I'll try. Okay, so the first point I want to make is this. Typically, when in-house counsel go to external counsel, they want to be complimented. Okay? So they go to seek support and assistance in what they are not unable to do, or what they are not allowed to do. So for me, if I'm to look at certain things, a few things are very important for me. First, I'll check, what do I want to achieve? What do I want to do? What's my objective? Then I'll look at who can help me do it. Who can do it for me? So one, very important, competence and expertise. So if I'm going out to hire an external counsel, I would need to have that comfort that whoever I'm going to is competent and also has the right expertise. The next thing for me would be cost efficiency. The truth is, businessmen will not spend 1 naira plus where they can spend 1 naira. So for anything I can do for X amount, why should I do X times 5? Across the same competencies. So I also look at cost efficiency. The other thing that would be very important for me is I would like to go to a firm or a place that we sort of have some kind of alignment in our values. Every entity, every organization has their DNA, what they call their DNA, what their values are. So I would like to look at someone that complements that aligns with my values, so that while working, the process will be as much as possible seamless. I'll look at things like confidentiality, especially for non-litigation matters. If it's transactional, I'll look at confidentiality. I don't want to get on the meeting table with a counsel that leaves my office and goes to my competitor, or whatever we discussed there is being downloaded. So I'll be very sure of confidentiality and professionalism in engaging any counsel. And then I'll also look at things like conflict of interest. You should be independent. I should be sure that while you're working for me, that my business is paramount here and that you are acting independently. So I think I'll look at those in about that order of priority for me.
Okay. Anyone else feels comfortable?
All right, thanks a lot. Let me just add to it. I don't take away from anything he has said. I think those things are really key. But in addition to that, I also look for an external counsel that understands that this is a partnership and is willing to work with me long term. And is also very, in terms of communication, we have a very open channel of communication. When I say partnership, what I mean is I need you to look out for me while I look out for you. So even if you're sitting in a room, you need to carry me along. So there are some times when, maybe the board wants to hear from the external counsel, we need to be on the same page in terms of, so that there's no mismatch between, what's going on with the inter-house counsel and what's going on with the external counsel. There needs to be that partnership. Like he says, it has to be seamless. If it's not, I can give an instance. There's been an external counsel that we wanted to let go of at some point because we're not very excited about the way he was providing the service. But because when it comes to communication, he will carry you along. This is what I think. You bounce off ideas each other. I have kept him longer than I hope to keep him.
Wow.
So sometimes it goes beyond expertise. You have to have that partnership working to make sure it's seamless. If it's not there, then it can create some kind of rift between the in and the out and the external counsel. So that as well is something I typically would look out for.
So when we say emotional intelligence, even though we're saying in-house lawyers have emotional intelligence, we're saying external counsel, when you're dealing with us,
yes,
you also have emotional intelligence and consider it a partnership. Thank you. Our time is up, but I just wanted to know, one more person wants to take a stab at it? You do? Okay.
Good. Thank you. Okay, so
at this rate, I'm not going to let you out.
Okay, so generally speaking, government doesn't go out looking for external counsel. You know, before we came up stage, Dr. Aderemi was talking about in-house counsel being subject matter experts. And that's exactly what it is, you know, within government circles. You find that almost for everything government wants to do, there is enough capacity within the government circles. So majorly, government doesn't really look out, you know, for external counsel. But where it becomes really important and necessary for government to engage external counsel, all the things that have been said by Ugochi and Sylvester certainly will be things that we will look out for in engaging such counsel. Thank you.
I don't want to say you're overworked, but.
Thank you. So very quickly, the first thing I look at is what are we out to achieve? What area of law are we looking at? Where are we requesting help or assistance from? You know, so we're looking at the area of law, and then we look at a law firm who has the expertise in this regards. So when we talk about expertise or capacity, I'm talking about your skill set. I'm talking about the size of your law firm, the manpower. So a very quick one, we had a recovery to do of over 95 million, you know, and there were about 45 banks. So a law firm that is just one person or two people, how are you going to handle that? So we look out also for the size of the firm, depending on the complexity. Then also, number two, I look at integrity, I look at track records. Personally, in as much as I'm big on outcomes, but I'm also very particular about the process of getting to the outcome, you know. So I look at your integrity, I look at your track record, I look at your value system. That's second. And then the third one is cost analysis. I cannot go, you know, beyond the budget. You know, company has said we are having this transaction, we are giving out this transaction for XYZ amount. I can't go beyond that. So budget is also a yardstick. So those three major things are the things I look out for when hiring any external counsel. Thank you.
Thank you. So if I were to summarize, I'd say what we look out for budgets. I like the way everybody's smiling. It's a big, big deal because sometimes, to be honest, it's part of your KPI. When they're looking at how much you've contributed to business. And some of the times, the way we can say what we've contributed to business is either how much we have saved, the organization, and sometimes it's even how much we're able to contribute in business. So I really want this audience to ask you questions. So I'm not going to ask you anymore, but I know that we don't have a lot of time. If there's one thing, you know, as Gen Z say, and by the way, I identify as Gen Z. I don't care what you say. I identify as Gen Z. As we say, mic drop moment. If there's one thing that you want everyone to remember today, if when they think about you, Sylvester, when they look at you, Nwabwaku, when they say, oh my goodness, something I'll never forget, Ugochi, and Olamide, when they would think of you 20 years from now, what is that one thing you want this audience to go away with before we yield the floor for them to ask you questions? I'll start with Sylvester, Ugochi, Olamide, and then Nwabwaku.
Thank you, my chair. Thank you very much. Today we are discussing ethics and innovation. The first one is ethics. I don't think it's complex. I don't think it's difficult. It's very simple. The point is, as much as we talk, what do we do in our closets? That's where it starts. Because the society is a sum of all of us put together. So the question is, what do you do in your closet? What do I do in my closet? Whatever you want, have that done in your closet. Then for innovation, I'd just like to say that it could be a two-edged sword. In the hands of the right people, it can make life very beautiful. And in the hands of the wrong persons, it can make life very terrible. Let's choose the first.
Thank you.
All right, thank you so much. I've actually been thinking about the question and looking at the theme as well and looking at my experience so far. What I would say is that leadership isn't always about having the right answers. It's about creating an enabling environment for people to speak up and ask questions. It's about empathy. It's about ensuring that people understand that it's okay not to know it all, and they can actually ask questions and feel safe to make mistakes. It's also, when I first stepped into the role as an in-house counsel, I felt I needed to, make sure I take care of all the risk, proactively sure that, that the risks are taken care of. I know all the answers and the questions. But sometimes it's about building trust. It's more than just being knowledgeable. It's about building trust. People follow trust and not necessarily people who know it all. So you need to be sure that as you have a right to sit on that table, as you're made to sit on that table, you're not just following the shape of the table, but you're also defining that space and making sure that you're not just following what is legal, but that what is right is actually what's being enforced. Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you.
All right, thank you. So mine would be a call to action. Now, I said this earlier, and I'm going to re-emphasize it. When I was at the law school, the word fit and proper we played with it. We did almost everything with it. We were like police officers to one another. If your dressing is not right, you go, you're not fit and proper. If you're not doing it, you're not fit and proper. But soon after leaving the law school, we seem to have forgotten about it. So I would say that we should, come back to where we started from and try as much as possible to be fit and proper again. Thank you.
Thank you. Two things I'll drop. First, professionally, ensure you stay relevant. As a leader, you must stay relevant. Keep building capacity. In your waiting time, so everybody is waiting for that big moment. But what makes the difference is when that opportunity meets you prepared. How are you handling your waiting time? Whilst you're waiting for the big brief, you're waiting for the big door to open, are you spending your waiting time complaining, or you are building capacity? You're taking certifications. You are enlarging your space. That is one way to stay relevant. As leaders, you must always stay relevant. Use your waiting time profitably. Secondly, ethically ensure that your value system is always in place. Be sure that your value system is not tampered with. So there is a quote from Mrs. B. Mrs. B says something, she said something like, permit me. She said, your image is your elevator. So even if you don't see it now, even if your company does not appreciate your ethical behavior now, because you know what you want, you know what you carry value. So even if they don't appreciate you here, walk with your shoulders high to the next company. They'll take you. Someone will look at you, appreciate you, and absorb you. So don't compromise your standard. Thank you.
If you truly enjoyed my panelists and all the wonderful things that they shared, I think you can do better than that. I'll give my own, even though I'm not a panelist, I must give my own mic drop moment because, like I said, I identify as Gen Z. So for me, integrity is who you are. Reputation is who people think you are. So the question is, who are you? That is what will shine through in the decisions that you take every day. There is no country in the world, no organization that has been built by angels, none that has been built by foreigners. Every country that you have seen that is great today was built by its citizens, and every organization that is outstanding today stands on the back and the shoulders of the actions of the people that work within that organization. So as individuals, ask yourself, how am I contributing to making my society better? And what am I doing that will make the organization I work a legacy and not a forgotten dream? Thank you. So, thank you. I still have lots of questions for my panelists, so I'm not tired of them. But I just know that, we would also, I know there are lots of questions and people would like to ask questions. When you're answering your questions, rather, I see people nodding, a few people are writing. In fact, I'm still seeing somebody writing now. So if you have any questions for my panelists, do you want to indicate by, oh, wow, okay. I was going to take you first, but now that's my own chair. Please, a round of applause for my chair. An outstanding woman, not just in law, but in business, in everything that she does. Now that my chair is standing, I'll take her first. I will take a man. Okay. Let me start with my chair.
Sorry. Please note that we are taking 4 questions first. So once you come up, mention your name and then your question and preferably who it's directed to. So 4 questions in the first interim. Thank you.
Which?
So while chair is coming up, so let me just choose the people so that we can have 4. Yes, madam, please come up.
Good morning, everyone. My own is not a question. My own is an addition to what the panelists have said, to that question of what do you expect from external solicitors?
Thank you.
Because I know it is very key. And I now stand in between. I'm also an external solicitor on the other hand. So when I was in-house properly, what was I expecting from the external solicitor? I identify and agree with all that they have said, but one very important thing is speed. If I ask for a legal opinion, I don't expect you to give me that legal opinion in a week's time. I expect that at least you will give it to me in 2 days. Now, the legal opinion, I don't want you to give me case law. You are not appearing before me. You'll be quoting so many cases. Just give it to me practically that I can use to apply to what I want to use it for. The case law, I'm not going to, when I'm talking to my directors or answering them, I'm not going to be quoting cases. So you will see some lawyers bring legal advice to you with a lot of cases, in the case of somebody, this happened, that. No. So minimize it. If you use one, it will be okay. And then off-the-cuff kind of advice. I am calling you because I'm under pressure. You know that being a legal advisor, you're always on your toes. Different people are calling you and they're asking you questions and you don't know it all. So you want to rely on your external solicitor. You're calling the external solicitor. He say, madam, I'll call you back. I am in the court. What is I am in court? Get a backup so that if you are in the court, you can simply just say to me, yes, I'm in court now, but Mr. B or Ms. B will call you right away. That is how to answer me. 2, I come from an industry that every day CBN is churning out regulations, circulars, all sorts, and there are new laws. And I'm expected to also now analyze it and give it to my board or management. So I will love that solicitor who has made my case easy or my job easy. They analyze it even before I think and they're sharing with me. How will I not love that solicitor? He has gone and looked at some of the circulars that have to do with the banking industry, and he has told me these are the key points in this. So when I go, I'm not going to be reading the circular to my board. I will just simply adopt what that my external solicitor told me, and I will shine. Because they are wondering how within a day of the release of that circular, I'm able to already come up with this. I will look very perfect before them. But I owe it to that my external solicitor who helped me, because I may not have read it too. But because he made it easy, I will just go to the key points and tell them. So also with the law, there are laws that they enact. And I can't, so many pages, so many things you are doing. If you do that and you send to me, I will love you. So this, in addition to some of the things that the panelists have said, very key, very important. Help the in-house counsel. You are not in competition. You are there to help them. So I'd like to just add these few points. Thank you very much.
And those were very important points. Thank you. The lady first. The lady and then both gentlemen. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Tony Asada, Managing Partner, Synesis DLP. A very big thank you to the panelists. This has been an amazing and insightful panel. Thank you so much. I remember when I started law practice, my first boss in practice, we did a lot of real estate work, and I kept saying, I've always had a flair for corporate work. So I kept saying, Oga, no corporate work. And he kept saying, Tony, those people, they'll be asking for bribes, they'll be asking for something. And I kept saying, really, is that the reason we're not doing corporate work in this frame? We had like maybe just 2 or 3 corporate clients. And fast forward when I started my practice, well, we have a lot of corporate work on our hands, and we're looking forward to more. But my question is, I would like any of the panelists to speak to this, or maybe if you can have 2, I would appreciate that, to speak on the perspective of how do you draw the line between appreciation of an in-house counsel that's brought a lot of work to the firm, because I always say that they are my best friends, and also ethics with regards to bribery. So where do you draw the line? So when it's December and you send out gifts to the in-house counsel, is that bribe? How do you draw that line to make sure that you are appreciating the patronage, but you're also being ethical? Thank you.
Thank you. So please note the questions you want to take. Let's take all 4, and then you tell us which ones you want to answer. Yes, please.
Thank you very much. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Nonso Azi. I am the Principal Counsel of Azi and Azi Legal Practitioners. I'm happy to be here, and my question will be directed to my classmate at the University of Nigeria, Ogechi, seated in the middle. The bar is made up of government, in-house, and law firm practitioners. But over time, it will appear that the most active people in the bar are the litigation and transactional lawyers who work in law firms. So going forward, as the premier bar, I want to ask you, Ogechi, you've been in-house, you're a consummate in-house person, I know your competence right from school. I want to ask you directly, what do you think that the bar should do, or fundamentally, what do you think is the reason why there seems to be an apathy on the part of in-house counsel to actively participate in NBA activities? We have the Law Week, and we just have a session for in-house counsel. If you ask me, with the rise of fintech and some other technical issues that we're not taught in law school, I honestly believe that the in-house forum should have been more expanded than this. So I want to ask you to tell us your perspective in-house on why it will appear you don't participate actively. And then going forward, what do you think are the prospects understanding these challenges? Thank you very much.
Ogechi, we have now adorned you to answer for all of us.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. My name is Tony Adenuga. I am a partner of Pechstone and Grace, and I kind of second one of the points that the last speaker made. So in my past, before I joined Pechstone and Grace, I worked at NGX Stock Exchange for about 11 years. So it was a battle with them to get us to come and participate in this activity. So the question is well put. So going to mine, So this is just to further support the compelling arguments, good arguments that you have all made. And my points will be in 3 specific areas. One, for those of us in the capital market or public companies, there is a specific provision in the ISA 2025 which has kind of improved on the provision of the ISA in 2007, which is on whistleblowing. So if you look at section 347, it speaks about you having a duty. Every employee that works in any company that is operating in the capital market, you have a duty to disclose any information that is connected with the activities of your work that indicates that a criminal offense is being committed or is likely to be committed. That is one. 2, you as an employer, you shall not subject any of your employees to any detriment as a result of that disclosure that has been made. The third point is that where a detriment has happened to an employee, and it is reported to the SEC, the SEC will direct that capital market operator, if it is proven that it is actually correct, would direct that person to reinstate that staff to that position. Now, the points about whether you think about it before you do it, emotional intelligence and all of that, you have to balance everything. And the fourth point is that any employee relieved of their employment under this point shall be entitled to compensation as if the person had attained the maximum age of retirement, or as if the person has served the maximum period of service. People always forget that provision, but it is there. So we are not fully helpless. For those of us who want to, who are interested in whistleblowing and doing it in a way that is properly guided for your own good and future. My second point is on ESG and sustainability. These have become core imperatives for those of us in the capital market and who are used to capital raising. The point about it is that greenwashing is actually happening. The point about greenwashing is that if you are to make your disclosures about your ESG activities and you start making yourself look good by identifying and reporting activities that you haven't taken, or you're making the impact of your work on your environment, to make it look less terrible than what it is, then what you're doing is greenwashing in your report. So it is looked at as being deceptive, and it is wrong commercial practice. And if your investors find out that's what you're doing, it will erode their trust in investing further in your business. So the third point I would like to make with regard to the government and government-owned entities is on the financial reporting councils. I know all of you, for those of us in the capital market, you're familiar with them. All of you have FRC numbers. The public sector governance code, it provides clearly on whistleblowing and avoidance of corruption. I just wanted to mention those points. Thank you very much.
Points, thank you very much. And even though I've never done that, I didn't get a chance to do that privately. I also want to publicly thank Paxton and Grace, because consistently I used to get, I think on a weekly basis, different things on employment law. A lot of times I've used that, and as a matter of course, I would share it with all the teams and our HR teams and all. And I don't know how I got into your database, and I miss it now that I'm not in channels anymore. But I want to thank you. That is an example of innovative practice, so thank you very much. I'm not saying that others are not good, but I just wanted to say that. Thank you. So now we go on to asking the questions. I'm hoping that we can answer them quickly, and then we can get another round of questions. So, Sylvester, did you identify anything you'd like to touch on?
Okay, thank you, Madam Moderator. The first question, I think it had to do with in-house counsel, the comment that in-house counsels difficult to deal with them because of the things they expect. And then the issue of what is acceptable. So maybe during festive season, if you haven't happened to reach out to the person that you're working with, what can you do and what can you not do? So I want to approach it this way. Most entities have their rules of conflict of interests, right? And that is ideal. That should be clear. So there are certain rules about what you can do and what you can do that are threshold. For some entities, they could tell you, if you are doing any gift that is more than so amount, whoever you're giving it to, of course, is the person that is there that you know. There has to be disclosure. Okay? So I think the best way to approach that is actually for the person working in-house. It's not for the external lawyer. Okay? So the person working in-house has a responsibility to ensure that the policies on conflict of interest are kept. So if you happen to receive any gift that is beyond the threshold, it behoves on you to disclose, and that should be that. Then for in-house lawyers asking for bribes, let's have a hard talk. I think this should be viewed on case-by-case basis, and then discussed and handled on such basis. We live in an environment that you cannot really vouch for everybody. You can only vouch for yourself. So it depends on who you are dealing with. Whoever you deal with, you should see that person as the person you're dealing with and do not try to kind of generalize. So that's what I'd like to say. So first, threshold based on company policies. If you get whatever is beyond the threshold, it's your duty to disclose. Once you've disclosed, whatever happens within the entity is what should be. That would be my comment on that.
I'm going to skip you, Ugochi, because I really wanted to do justice to that question. So I'm going to go to
help me.
I'm going to go to Olamide, and then we'll go to Mabuaku, then we'll come to you. Make sure you are doing justice to that question.
Hello? Okay, good. All right. So I would take the question about how do you draw the line between bribery and appreciation? And yes, Sylvester hits the nail on the head, right, when he talked about threshold. And for me, I think that the size really matters. So if you send me a box of chocolates, which I don't even eat anyway, I mean, why should I fuss about that? Right? But if you send me keys to an apartment in Banana Island, right? So, I mean, that has some capacity to influence me. Right? And yes, and then that can come with it some elements of inducement. So, and at that point, it is at that point that I think that an eyebrows should be raised. So, in striking the balance, I think we are all reasonable beings, and then I think we should subject it to that test.
So really. Is it the in-house or government lawyers?
Government lawyers. So I mean, see, what I'm saying, generally speaking, you are not expected to collect anything. I mean, it's there, white and black in the rules. But, so you see somebody sending you some, on my birthday, somebody delivered some balloons, right? That can be some form of inducement, depending on how it made me feel. And that's the point I'm trying to make here, that yes, I mean, I'm not going to throw it back at the person and say, no way, I am a government lawyer and I have all the integrity in this world. Please come take back your balloons. No, I'm not going to do that. And that's why I'm saying that there should be some balance here. We should be able to just introduce some balance into it. And that's exactly where I'm taking it right from where Sylvester stopped, that the threshold, does it go beyond the threshold that is allowed within the organization?
Okay.
And the second one, why apathy? I know that question was asked within the context of when it's in-house corporate counsel, but even for government lawyers too, I think we have some level of apathy. Maybe we are not happy with the MBA. I don't know.
Yeah. That's why we're letting Ugochi marinate.
But I know we do have that as well. Yeah. Why? I don't know. I'll make that my doctoral thesis. Thank you.
I wish you'd say more, but okay. Because you're answering for all of us. No pressure, no pressure. Just saying, Ugochi. Wabaku.
Okay, I'll just add a little to what Sylvester said. So he talked about conflict of interest and disclosure. So the third principle I'll just want to add is ensure that you're maintaining your professional independence. Ensure that whilst, yes, you're disclosing, you're ticking the box, is there a conflict of interest? Also ensure that your professional independence is maintained. Also, you have to consider, so if you're regulated, right, you have to consider the laws that are guiding you, your sectoral codes, because there are some codes. I work in a PLC, so there are some codes, that will tell you you cannot give this kind of gift to this kind of persons. You're having an AGM, you cannot give gifts to shareholders. You can't do that, right? So you have to look at the codes, the laws that are guiding you. Also, you look at company policies. It was mentioned briefly. So whatever your company policy has said, like what Sylvester said, if you're receiving any gift from any client, you ensure that it must be disclosed. Then also, the last thing I want to mention is we are talking about the value of gift, but you should also be able to look with hindsight what client intentions may be. So probably some things, some comments may have been passed, along the line. So there are things that you can use emotional intelligence, and carefulness to look around to saying, oh, I think the intention of this client is to make me subjected to whatever he says I should do. So by the time you're considering that, you'll be able to draw the line between what a gift is. Should it be accepted? Should it not be accepted? Thank you very much.
Okay. So what I'm hearing our panel say is that it should be both ways. So whilst we are guided by our laws, and also we're also saying that as in-house and government counsel, you use your initiative also to say some things are a big no-no, but we're also saying that external counsel, you also, you think about what it is that you're offering the person, because sometimes some people may not return it, but are you trying to induce? So what's your own ethical compass as well as an organization, as a firm? What's your ethical compass? And now, drum roll. Well,
all right, thank you very much.
Tell them.
And I'm very sure that I'll have support from the rest of the panel.
We will clap. Tell them.
Okay, firstly, I think I'll just touch a bit on the first question, which is, and I'll talk about it from the perspective of the giver. I know that sometimes people feel pressured to give because maybe they see other people giving, and they think it's the right thing to do. Then the question now comes, how much can I give? I think it's about establishing your ethical values as an external counsel first. Say, what are we able to give and what can't we give? And don't feel pressured to go beyond them. Now, the reason why I say it is that because I act both in external and internal capacity. And when it comes to my clients, my external clients, I know that my policies don't even allow certain things. So I know that, December gifting, Christmas gifting, it's not going to work beyond giving you something a branded item. So the question I ask myself is, how can I foster this relationship beyond monetary gifts or physical gifts? And what we try to do is ensure that you have a relationship with your clients, such that even beyond the gifting, because I deal a lot with government, even government officers, and they're like, WC, you people don't give anything. You know it as a man that we don't give anything. But I will make sure that I'm in touch with you. Things like your birthdays, your children's birthdays, I'm in touch with you in a way that I appeal to you more than the gifts that I can give to you. So I think it's about being creative to make sure that you don't draw the line, you don't cross the line, but you're also able to build that relationship with your client. Then to the second one. Okay. So thank you very much for that question, and I know you have been itching to ask me this question for a very long time. Why do we not participate as much? I think it's more about competing interests. There are lots of things. If you're an in-house counsel, you're not just a lawyer. You said it here. You're a business, you're a commercial person. You also have other certifications, other groups that you belong to. So your life, your everyday life, is not just about being a lawyer. Sometimes you're working as a commercial person. Sometimes you're wearing the lawyer hat. Sometimes you're wearing the compliance officer hat. Sometimes you're wearing the risk person's hat. So you're wearing several hats. And because you're wearing several hats, there are several things competing for your attention. And then you find that, unlike for law firms where your entire being is about being a lawyer, the in-house counsel, your entire being is not about being a lawyer. So that's the difference. And because there are several things that compete for our interests, we may not be able to do it all to one association. I'll give you, for example, I belong to 5 different associations. I'm a chartered accountant. I'm a chartered tax practitioner. I belong with ICSAN. I'm about to deal with BRIPAN. I also belong to even chartered accountants in the UK. I have several organizations that I'm trying to make sure that I leave a footprint. Because the question is, yes, I'm a chartered accountant, but when I walk into that space, I have value to also add as a chartered accountant who is a lawyer. So I also want to feature in that space. So there are several things that are competing for attention. So it's not necessarily because there's apathy like that, but you need to understand that we're wearing several hats and we're trying to balance it all. And again, you come to the organization, for the most part, you're in the minority because an entire organization is made up of several professionals. You can't wake up and say, oh, my entire law department, we have a law week, we're all going to a law week. It's not going to happen. They'll say, what's that? They're not relating with it because the person you're reporting to is not a lawyer. The person can't relate with it. So even if you want to participate, you participate with wisdom. We've talked about doing things with wisdom. I mean, I had to be here today. I had to quickly say, oh, I'm gone for a few hours. I'm doing this. Maybe because I've reached a certain level, some of my junior employees cannot necessarily give that much time. So I think that's it. It's about, you also need to understand that we wear different hats, and it's not necessarily as well. Thank you very much.
Can I support? Okay, I think she asked for support, so I'll try to support her. I see that this question is very interesting, particularly on this part of the room. I can see my children, they've been nodding. So, short of saying that, let's just raise our hands and say we are guilty as charged, but that we will try to turn a new leaf. Imagine just going to say that an entire department is going for a bar conference for 1 week. It's difficult, but we know because at least we're lawyers first before doing any other thing. So we know that we owe this profession that duty of commitment and also being part of what is being done. So we are not going to make plenty of excuses. Okay, talking for myself now, it is true that we are not doing as much as we ought to do, but that we are here now. We can only try to do better. So I'm giving that commitment to the branch leadership here now, and they want to come, and that we do as much as possible to try to participate more. Thank you.
Okay, I'd like to also bring up our in-house and Government Council Forum chair, because just before this conference, we went round going to our colleagues. We went to all of the biggest organizations, chair please, and we got feedback from them. And I'd like chair to please share the feedback from some of our colleagues as to why they're not participating in NBA in-house activities. Some of the comments that you've given are true, but I think, it would be a good time to also hear, since the question came up, to also hear what is the general perception and what are people saying to NBA? What did they say to us to tell the NBA leadership? We've delivered that message to NBA leadership, but since everyone wants to know.
Okay, Adiola, you are putting me on the spot.
Don't mention organizations, just say.
Okay, first and foremost, Ugochi, I'd like to say something in addition to what you said, or ask you this question. What is your primary constituency? You name 5 things that you do and you belong to. Were you not first and foremost a lawyer before becoming an accountant? Were you not a lawyer before a tax collector or whatever? Were you not a lawyer before? So you have decided deliberately to abandon your first constituency.
And you are not telling us why.
Yes, that is what you are telling me. You have announced to the whole world that you prioritize other professions above the law.
Never. That's not possible.
How did it come across to you? When she said that she was doing 5 things and that she wants to be known in those areas. So you don't want to be known here?
No. I think you're misinterpreting.
Okay. Anyway, I wanted to pull your legs, but the truth is, first, I always said to people and to my former bosses that I am first and foremost a lawyer before becoming a banker. Yes, and all the other certifications that I've done, risk management, compliance, and all of those things, they are behind me. This is my constituency. And one time, my former boss, also a lawyer, we had this argument because I wanted to come for MBA Law Week, and he says, Justina, how are you going to take a whole week? And I said, I'm not going to take a whole week. I know the areas that I want to attend. I want to feature there a bit, but I'll also be in the office. If you need me, I have my mails on the go. And I can answer from anywhere. So he said to me that he is a banker. I said, you are the MD, that is where he eats from. I said, I'm a lawyer and a banker, but I do know that when I leave the bank, this is where I will eat from. So I was balancing it. In as much as it was difficult when it was Law Week. I don't know, many of you who know me will know that I've been participating from day one. Even while I was in the bank, I was speaking. I was participating in Lagos branch Law Week, and I got my people to also participate. So if we were 30 lawyers, for instance, I will nominate 1 or 2, and I'll tell them, you will attend this session and this session. This one, you will attend this and this. It's a question of prioritizing it and apportioning your time well. I'll come for maybe 1, 2 sessions, and I will disappear. They won't see me again until maybe when we're going to party in the evening. So anyway, why do we not participate? One of the reasons I've given to you is this. There's a lot of work to do in-house. A lot of work. When you sit on that seat, honestly, short of saying that there's fire burning under the seat, your attention is needed everywhere. And these bankers, I always use the bank because that is the constituency that I'm used to. There's legal implication for everything. Even as you are sitting down here, they will ask you, what is the legal implication of sitting here? So they don't do anything without asking what the legal implication is. They want your attention, and you are a member of almost all the meetings. Because of this issue of, when I was in the bank, my middle name could have been meeting. Yes, each time you call me, I'm at one meeting or the other. Yes, management meeting, board meeting, departmental meetings, all sorts of meetings. They want your attention there because they don't want to do anything. They will say there's legal implication to it that they haven't heard from their lawyer. So it is a question of prioritizing and then creating the time to be part of this. So that one is there, and Ugochi is right. You have to just pay attention there as well, because for the time being, you don't have any other job. So you have to answer them. But that said and done, one of the main issues is that in-house lawyers don't feel carried along. For instance, if not for the last MBA chairman and then our able chairman here that deliberately created this forum. Have you ever heard that there was an in-house and government council forum or committee or anything? Kudos to the two of them, and I would like you to give them a round of applause, a resounding round of applause. And they supported us when Ikechukwu Nwana created the committee. I thought when he was leaving that it will not function anymore. But when BC came in, the support he gave us is amazing. Till today, he's still supporting us. So from 25 members that we were, we've grown the numbers to about 400 plus that are actively participating, at least on the WhatsApp. And you will see when you go to our WhatsApp, people are dropping all sorts of things. Forget the politics that Nonso and Co are doing now and are spoiling our platform with their campaign materials. We're very constructive there. You don't just put anything. But we've allowed it because we need to vote them to come in. So by the time they finish all this, today is the last day anyway that they will be doing that type of campaign. We'll block this. If anybody wants to drop anything, we will just remove the person since they are not in-house. Now, that's one. You get answers to some immediate issues on that platform. I may not know it, but those who know it or are in that, we are made up of people from diverse industries to start with as in-house. All of them seated here are not in the same industry. And me talking, we're not in the same industry. My background, I've told you, is banking. So you get a lot of information from that platform. However, we are also being discriminated against. Number one is there are some certain offices that we cannot contest for. Have you ever seen any in-house person say that, vote for me? No, let me hear you. Have you ever seen?
No.
Why? Because they read the Constitution. They don't come out like how. They read the Constitution. Don't we have a Constitution of the MBA? It is written black and white there. If you were present at our last conference, I'm just giving you a tip of the iceberg. I don't want to say so much, but this is one of the things. So if somebody is in-house and knows that they cannot contest for certain positions because they fear issue of confidentiality, is there any person who is more confidential than the in-house person? No, because whatever your management does and tells you, you are supposed to keep it. If you are somebody whom, if they just finish a meeting, you go as if you work with channels or NTA or TVC News and you are announcing it, you'll be fired. Confidentiality is very key. In fact, if you don't have that, you cannot even be an in-house counsel.
Thank you so much,
So
Chair.
I think that I'm encouraging all of us, those of us that are in-house here, prioritize the time. Whatever you do, one day be one day, Mokin go market, no go come back. And what do I mean by that? You are going to live wherever you are. You can't stay there forever. But you will remain a lawyer until you die. Mm-hmm. And they will bury you as a lawyer, not as a tax lawyer, not as a compliance officer. So please, I invite all of you, come inside, come into the corporate world and enjoy what it takes to be an in-house and government counsel forum lawyer. Thank you.
So I'm also going to invite the branch chair, but just before he comes, I'll just say that I don't attend branch meetings because the attire that you require, is not boardroom attire, which is what I'm used to, but what you require is litigation attire. Yes. Yes. For example, I would wear an orange, in fact, Bimpe was saying that she was praying that I won't appear today in a pink suit. And in the boardroom, where they're taking decisions affecting millions of people and we're signing millions of dollars, that's perfectly acceptable. But I cannot speak in an MBA forum.
So I think I should start from that premise.
Thank you. I cannot speak, I can attend, I hear, but I wouldn't be given the floor to speak. If I wear pink, it is decided that I no longer have brains.
So I should start.
I should
start.
And so I won't attend, but Chair, please.
Yes, I should start from that premise. So we did something remarkable.
You can attend, but you can't speak. You're not giving the.
No.
But if I'm coming straight from the boardroom,
can I explain?
Not?
Can I explain? So we listened, and then we created a committee that had Dr. Ayanwale as the vice chair of that committee. one of the things that we did was to allow our in-house colleagues to feel being part of the bar. And so I'm aware that there's been some amendments to the dress code, specifically at the instance of our in-house colleagues, so to cater for them. I hear you. You wear your red jacket to your meeting, but as you're coming to the branch meeting, just change the red and wear the black one. Okay? But to the second point that Mrs. Lewa raised, whilst I concede that at the national level, there is some restriction against serving for office, only in relation to the president and the general secretary, who must be in private practice. At the branch level, there is no restriction. So tomorrow, somebody who is in-house or general counsel can decide to run for chairman. The question is, would you have the time to serve? The Port Harcourt chairman is the Director of Civil Litigation in the Port Harcourt Ministry of Justice. She is from Ministry of Justice. She's the chairman of Port Harcourt. So nothing stops Olamide tomorrow from running to be the chairman of the branch. The question is this: when we then need to call out the Minister of Justice, will Olamide, as the chairman of the branch, be bold enough to do that? The third point, which I like us to consider, and I'm not putting on the spot Mrs. Adeola Olumeyo and the rest of us, but legal service is not a commodity. It is not bread that you pick on the shelf. So stop asking us to quote for a job.
To quote?
Yes. Stop asking lawyers to quote for a job. I want to give you this litigation, how much you do charge for it. Come to me because you think I have the expertise. And if you feel that you cannot afford me, go to the next man. But don't gather 4 of us and ask us to do a beauty parade. Stop doing it.
Shots fired.
Because we are talking about innovation, and I'll leave it at that before I get into trouble. Thank you very much.
This is most unfair because our time is up, so we can't even respond. We can't respond, but yes, I agree. We can be guilty of that. Thank you.
We have not finished.
Are we safe?
And I will say this is the first and only session I have had to intervene throughout the entire conference. I think we had an unwritten rule amongst all the committee members that we should not intervene in any of the sessions. So you will not find us ask any question. But I feel compelled to say 1 or 2 words because this is an august panel and I have an august audience. And I speak from the prism of a commercial lawyer. I have heard representations made by the in-house counsel or in-house committee of the lack or insufficient inclusion in the bar activities. And when I was told as we're planning the conference, I fired a salvo back. And I'm sure you got my message regarding your... And let's be very practical, let's be honest with ourselves. I'm a businessman, I'm a business lawyer. I have a conference to plan. And it's not the type of conference that you plan for 2 days or for 3 days. Every day of this conference at that shell hall, we're tearing down and we're building up. Yesterday was at the shell hall. Today we're here. They all cost money. And so if I were to open up the budget of this conference, every or most of the decisions were driven by who was going to support me. Now, on this panel, there's not one person who has supported this conference, whether directly or indirectly. And it's just not this panel. I think generally, as a body of in-house counsel, and I was sharing it with the chairman and one of the contestants, that whether during your time or when the new administration come in, we must work very close. I work with a lot of general counsel, so I know most of your challenges, and we must overcome those challenges. But I need the in-house counsel to also understand that this relationship must be symbiotic. And so if you don't bring the organized private sector to support the bar activities, I mean, BC's administration sponsored one of the lawyers to London on an internship. So when you get your companies to support these sort of causes, the bar will always fight for you. And I think that's the point Jocelyn Alewa was making. We knew her when she was company secretary of one of the prominent banks. Today, she's probably making far more millions as a practicing lawyer than when she was in the bar. And I will single her out of all the corporate counsel.
So you see what he just did now, when he's a practicing lawyer. In other words, we are not practicing lawyers.
Well, no, when you go and look at the Constitution, I didn't say it, go and look at the Constitution. But I think all of those issues are issues that we'll resolve. But
it's
the point
okay,
I'm
even
making,
my father says I'm not a lawyer.
but the point I'm making is, I think you can rewrite that narrative. Make yourself, the association should make itself a lot more present in bar activities. Because of your time, you may not be able to be physically present, but let your money speak for you. That way, you will have a seat at the table. Thank you.
Just before you go, somebody wanted to say something.
A very brief comment, please. I think this is...
Do I need to stay for that comment? Because I may have a right of reply.
It's actually a very important part of this session, and I think this is very experiential, okay? All the points are taken, but I'd just like to begin from one of the comments he made. I think I'll be doing myself and my employer a disservice if I don't mention that when the call came, we sponsored, we supported the conference. And not just that, okay, I think it's something that is actually beginning, and as much as possible, we will try to ensure that whenever the call comes in subsequent times, we keep on supporting the NDA. And then on the role of in-house counsel, please, I just want to say that, yes, the points that have been taken, that we are here today is the beginning. It can only get better, I can assure. Thank you.
Okay. My panelists and in-house lawyers are still here. We're not leaving. So the conversation can continue. But we do have to exit the stage now. But I'd like to thank all of you. I will be speaking to some people. I'll remove my jacket. We will rack it out with some of the misconceptions that have been shared here. For some, I will cover my face because, yes, I'm guilty, and I know a lot of us are guilty, like not taking, I like the way the chair said, I'm not calling out Mrs. Olumeyo, but don't call us and ask for many invoices. Thank you for calling my name and telling everybody that's what I do. Okay, but thank you so much for attending this panel, for being engaged, for not leaving, and for supporting my fantastic, excellent A+ panel. Our conversation will continue, but we'd like to thank you all. Thank you.
Just a minute. If you know you have learned a lot from this session, please, a round of applause once again. We want to say a huge thank you for sharing your thoughts. I know that most of us have written enough things to take away from this session that will be of help to us. And to wrap up this session with a special vote of thanks, I'd like to call on Dr. Tolu Aderemi for his vote of thanks.
So let me resume my original assignment. My task is to thank all of you. But before I do that, I'd like to leave this as a closing remark. There is a growing trend across the world, and that growing trend is an answer to some of the challenges that you all are facing as in-house counsel. And what is that challenge? Your various boards are reducing legal budgets across board. And so what you have to spend on litigation, etc., is shrinking by the day. And priorities are changing, rightly so. It's just not in Nigeria, it's across the world. So everywhere we go, we find that. One of the solutions, which I'd like you to think about, and we can talk about it much later, is what is now called dispute avoidance mechanisms. What we do is a lot of dispute resolution, but there's now what is known as dispute avoidance. And it's not so new. It's been used in the construction industry in the past, but we're now expanding it into other sectors, and it assists with your board's reprioritization of budgets. So I think it's something I'd like you, gentlemen, to please consider. On that note, I want to thank all my panelists. Can we please give them a round of applause again? And on a more serious note, for those of us whose hourly rates, who charge on an hourly basis, you can only appreciate the value of their time. So I was making that on a lighter note, that you didn't sponsor the MBA, but the fact that you've created time to sit here today and the value of your time is on its own a sponsorship which I as chairman recognized. And I thank you very much. I must also thank the audience for being participatory and for coming in time. I'm hoping that, well, today is the last session, but please, let's cultivate the habit of, being timely. On that note, I will invite the bar chairman, Mr. Bisima Konjola, to please present the awards to the distinguished panelists. Thank you very much. Mr. Chair.
Okay, so we're pressed for time. I'd like to say a big thank you to you, ma'am, for sharing today's panel session. Thank you so much, ma'am. Thank you very much, sir. I'm grateful. Thank you so much. Thank you, my brother. Thank you. Can we just take a group picture? Tolu, please join us.
A round of applause once again, ladies and gentlemen.